So in the studio today, I am grouting these wonderful mosaics made by some of my students. I've got about 7 of them to do, so let's take a look and see how I get on. So if you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is Dion and I am an African-inspired mosaic artist. So today, as I said before, I'm going to be grouting these wonderful mosaics. They are of a Sankofa bird. I recently did a workshop with some adults and it was wonderful. So some of the students didn't want to take their own mosaics home to grout, so I said, okay, I'll do it then. Okay, so I do not like gaps in mosaics. As much as I try to tell my students, try not to leave any big gaps, they still do. So I'm going to repair some of these mosaics and fill in these spaces because it's going to make my life a lot easier when it comes to grouting. And sometimes they add in tiny little bits that are just useless in there and they'll just get lost. So I'm going to remove some of those and just probably move a couple of tiles around, take pieces out, replace them, just to make it a lot easier for me to do the whole grouting process. So what was the point of putting that little bit of mosaic in there? Someone please comment below and tell me why. Just why? Ended up spending quite a little bit of time repairing this mosaic or adding little bits in, and yeah, it did take me a little while I think I got carried away actually. I should have just tried to leave it as much as possible as the original design, but it was those gaps, man. I just had to fill them. This one wasn't too bad. I only had a few places to fill the gaps in, so this one went relatively quickly. So I've set these 2 mosaics aside to dry completely, because if I was to try and grout them now, it would be a sorry mess. Now let's start the grouting process. So I've got 7 mosaics to grout and 3 of them are slightly larger than the others. I'm not too sure how much grout I'm going to need, so I'm just going to guess. It's not a big issue if I do not get it right, get the measurements right, and I don't have enough. Because it's white, it should be okay for me to continue and mix up another batch. If it was a different colour, it might have been a little bit of an issue, but because it's white, it should be okay. So I always make a little well in my powder. I don't know why I do it, I just do. And then I add my water, it's cold water, and I mix. And I keep mixing until I get to a smooth consistency, rather like peanut butter or double cream, that kind of consistency. But just be careful not to add too much water all at once. It can be deceiving sometimes when you're adding the water and you're mixing and you think, oh, it's looking too dry, I'm going to add some more. then all of a sudden you've got this sloppy mess. So just do it slowly, bit by bit. When you get to this stage, as you can see here, it's on a crumbly stage. You're almost there, so you just need to be careful how much water you add from this point. So I'm almost here or there with my smooth consistency. It still feels a little bit stiff for me, so I'm going to add a couple more drops of water in there because it's not moving as loosely as I would like it to move. So literally just a few drops, and that should do the trick, and it will make it easier for me to spread onto the grouting, sorry, not the grouting, onto the mosaic pieces. Before you start grouting, make sure you check your mosaics for any loose pieces. You need to do this because when you start grouting and any loose pieces come out, first of all, you're going to be like, oh! And then you're going to be like, what do I do next? And then you're going to be like, I don't know how I'm going to fix this. It's not a big issue, but it's just a pain in the bum when those pieces do dislodge when you're grouting. So just make sure you do that before you start grouting. This is one of my favourite tools ever when it comes to grouting. It's called a rubber kidney, and it's usually used by potters, but it's fantastic for grouting mosaics, especially small fiddly ones like these ones. It's flexible, it feels nice in the hand. It's my go-to every time when I'm doing a mosaic, and I'll link the description below that you can purchase them. But yeah, get yourself a rubber kidney, guys. The best thing ever. So make sure you spread your grout all over the mosaic. Pay particular attention to the edges because you don't want to miss those. Sometimes they can get missed out. So keep turning, checking, spreading, and you'll see me do the actual outer edges a little bit later, and I'll show you how to do that. Grouting the outer edge is just as important as the top of your mosaics. You want a nice finish, and sometimes people don't like to grout the edge, like to paint it, but in this instance you'll need to grout it because you'll see the gaps there. Can you see the gap where the tile meets the board? You need to fill that, especially if this is going to go outside, because you don't want it to be susceptible to leakage from the rain and mildew and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you finish your mosaic off nicely. It always looks presentable as well. Here I'm using my fingers because I just want to get in there, do you know what I mean? Make sure that I'm filling those gaps properly, and I create a nice smooth edge at the same time. This works well when you have tiles that are nice and smooth at the edge and not sticking out, so just be mindful of that also. Here I'm just scraping off any excess grout before I do the next cleaning of the mosaic, which you'll see in just a moment. Okay, you can stop now, dear, when you're doing too much. So even though the mosaic looks pretty clean already, I'm just going over it again with a damp sponge, and I'm turning it every single time so that you have a clean edge that you can wipe over the mosaic. And then once you've covered all your sides of the sponge, give it a little dip in the water, squeeze out that water so it is as dry as it can be, and then you can go in again if your mosaic is particularly dirty. This one isn't, but I just thought I'd do it again. I don't know why. I just do things a bit too much sometimes. Once the sponging method is done, you may notice some glue, a bit of residue on top of the tiles. This is a great opportunity to start picking it off and scraping it off. I'm using a toothpick here. I actually really enjoy this bit. I don't know why, it's kind of therapeutic for me. Here these tiles have been put in upside down, so that's why the grout is in between these grooves. Sometimes the students like to use the tiles the other way up. It's a pain sometimes to clean, but it's also kind of therapeutic at the same time. So yeah, make sure you clean your mosaic thoroughly, get the residue off at this stage, because whilst it's damp, because once it's dry it's a lot harder to scrape off. So I had a moment with a loose tile. Remember what I was saying earlier about loose tiles? I didn't go, as I said before, because I know what to do, don't I? I know what to do. So I put the glue underneath the tile, the PVA glue, and just stuck it back in. And then I grouted gingerly around it and then went back to it afterwards. And here I am at the end of my grout. So I'm just going to place that last bit in the center of this mosaic, and then I'm just going to mix up another batch. If it was another color, maybe black or gray, I might have had an issue because the color would be slightly different. You can't mix the same color twice, but because it's white, I should be able to get away with it. So I mixed up my last batch of grout and I was able to finish the rest of the mosaics. Here's the one that you saw earlier, just making sure that I really focus on those edges because those gaps were kind of a little bit big and I had to use quite a bit of grout to fill them in properly. Unfortunately, I didn't film the very last bit, which was the cleaning of the mosaics. So I'm just going to explain here that once you have finished your grouting, you scrape off as much grout as you can, as you saw previously. You allow the mosaic just to sit, and then you'll see like a haze come over the mosaic, so it looks a bit dusty. Once you get to that stage, then use a dry cloth and clean it off basically. You might see some glue still stuck to the tiles. You can scrape that off at that point as well. And then that's basically it, and then you allow it to sit and dry completely for 24 hours, and then you can come back to it and give it a nice final polish. And look at these wonderful, beautiful mosaics. Look how they've turned out. I am so happy. I did actually have to fill in or top up some of them because the grout just seemed to sink in, so I did have to sort of give them another layer of grout, but apart from that they turned out really, really good. And so I'm going to get these back to the people, and hopefully they will really enjoy their pieces of art. But thank you for watching, and please do leave a comment below and subscribe if you're not subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.